Hello everyone, welcome to the Storyist. Racial profiling is a real thing, and it might seem or sound like an issue from the past, but believe it or not, it still is today. To those who have not experienced racial profiling or do not know someone who has, it may seem to be nothing more than a mere inconvenience, or something that is not too big of a deal for someone to dwell upon. However, racial profiling is much more than a hassle or an annoyance. It has real and direct consequences, especially for the feelings and mental health of those involved. And it not only impacts one's life or reputation, but it also affects one's mind, feelings, and the perception of the younger generation on issues such as this. Today, I will be telling you a story about a white teacher who accuses her 7-year-old black student of stealing her phone. Stay until the end of the video to see what happens. Anisha is a black girl. She is 7 years of age, and she is currently studying in a private school. Her family is not rich, nor are they comfortable. If anything, her family is as poor as rats. They live in a makeshift home near the edge of town, and they barely have water and electricity there. They are using natural light, which is fire made from burning twigs. Outside their home, it looks like they are camping every night, but in reality, they are just so poor that they can't pay for electricity. Their water comes from the river nearby, and that is also why Anisha's father chose the place, so that they can bathe directly in the river. However, despite their lifestyle, Anisha is never ashamed of her life or her family. She is proud, in fact, that her parents are still struggling to make her go to school. Anisha is a very bright girl. She has been accepted to the prestigious private school she is studying in now because of a scholarship she has applied for. A lot of the sponsors of her scholarship were amazed by her gifts and thought that such intelligence would be a waste if she was not given the fair chance of education. So there she is now, studying in one of the city's richest schools. She may be lucky enough to have landed in the school without having to pay for anything, but it is also a torture to her every day. In their school, there are only a few scholars like her. She will be lucky if she finds one, but more often than not, the scholars she finds are always not as poor as her, so she knows she is the poorest on the campus. But not only that, her classmates will often remind her of this all the time, too. One time, while she is walking inside the cafeteria during recess, a bunch of mean girls shout at her. "Hey, Curly, the garbage can is that way. Those are the only foods you can afford anyway. Leftovers," she says and then laughs. Her voice is so loud that everyone else in the cafeteria hears, and they all laugh too. She is so embarrassed that she runs towards the school comfort room and puts out her apple from the bag that is supposed to be her snack for the afternoon. She eats alone inside the ladies' room because no one wants to sit with her anyway. Everyone in the school looks at her like she has an epidemic. Her hair is curly and has a lot of volume, and most girls will often spread rumors about her having head lice. That is also why many of the students don't want to get near her or to eat beside her, because they are afraid they will catch her head lice. One morning, the biology teacher enters Anisha's room to teach. She then tells the class that she will be bringing the whole class outside to look at the plants in the garden. However, there are 3 students inside the class who fail to bring their goggles. "Okay, now let's all go outside with your goggles, because some of the plants spurt out dangerous chemicals," the teacher says. 2 of the students raise their hands in unison. "Mrs. Goodman, I forgot my goggles at home," one of the students says. Mrs. Goodman's smile slowly fades away. "Have I not reminded you about that yesterday, Ron?" the teacher asks. Ron just bows his head in embarrassment. "I forgot my goggles too, Mrs. Goodman," another student raising his hand says. The teacher just shrugs and tells the boys not to come outside. "You know the policy, boys. No goggles, no plant trip," the teacher says, and she asks the class to fall into one single line. The 2 boys remain seated at where they are, and so does Anisha. When the teacher notices Anisha not moving, she asks her why. "What are you still doing there? Get over here and join your peers," she says in an authoritative tone. "I'm sorry, miss, but I don't have goggles too," Anisha says while her head is bowed down. The teacher deeply closes her eyes, as if losing her patience. "You forgot it too? I thought they said you're intelligent and that you're one of the best students in this class. I guess they're wrong after all," the teacher replies. But Anisha explains to her that she was not able to buy a pair of goggles. "I don't have enough money to buy goggles, miss. I'm sorry," Anisha apologizes politely. But the teacher does not buy her apology. "So that is my problem? You should have thought of that before you entered this school," the teacher says and walks away. She instructs the 2 boys and Anisha to stay inside the room until they get back. After an hour, the class and the teacher go back to their room in a proper line. Anisha has just spent the whole hour reading her biology book, and the two boys have spent the whole period playing games on their phones. When the teacher gets back, she looks at her purse to look for something. But then after a few minutes, she cannot seem to see what she is looking for. "Hey boys, have you seen my phone?" the teacher asks the boys who weren't on the trip outside. They just shake their heads, not saying anything. The teacher then looks at Anisha, but her head turns to her slowly, as if realizing what has happened. "You stole it, didn't you? Give it back to me or I'll put you in detention," the teacher says. Anisha refuses to admit that she has stolen her teacher's phone, because she really hasn't. But the teacher keeps insisting that she did. "It wasn't me, miss, I swear," Anisha begs. But the teacher believes something else. "There are only 3 of you inside this room. Who do you think I'll believe?" the teacher says. At that moment, Anisha looks around and realizes that the 2 boys with her inside the room are both white, and she is the only black girl inside. She immediately understands what the teacher is talking about. She is accusing her of stealing her phone because she is the most obvious culprit. Anisha refuses to admit that she stole the teacher's phone until the bell rings. Once the bell rings, the teacher forcefully grabs Anisha and drags her to the principal's office. "Everyone thinks you're the poor golden scholar girl, but we'll let them know who you really are," the teacher says while dragging her along the hallway. When they reach the principal's office, she tells the principal what has happened. But Anisha still refuses to admit to the crime she did not commit. "Why don't we try ringing it?" the principal asks the teacher. "Good idea," the teacher replies. She borrows the principal's phone and dials her own number. The phone line is ringing, but she doesn't hear her phone ring anywhere near them. She keeps calling until a knock comes at the principal's office's door. When the teacher opens it, it is another teacher who is eating her lunch in the faculty room. She is holding a phone that is currently ringing by her right hand. "Mrs. Goodman, you left your phone in the faculty office. It kept ringing, so I brought it here," the other teacher says. Mrs. Goodman is very embarrassed in front of the principal. She is more embarrassed of what she has done to Anisha. "That wasn't very professional of you, Mrs. Goodman. Accusing a black girl of stealing your phone without concrete evidence? So not professional," the principal says. Mrs. Goodman keeps on apologizing, but the principal tells her that it is not her she should apologize for. The principal takes back Anisha to her class and promises that in order for her to focus on her studies without thinking about Mrs. Goodman, she will be placed in another section in a different teacher. Mrs. Goodman is so embarrassed by her act, and since that day, she has stopped judging others based on their race, color, or appearance. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed that video, and we'll see you on the next.